Hey, Rebel Rouser. I'm Alan Voivod, and this is Star Wars 7x7. We're at episode number 1678. And hey, it's the show where I listen to the Disney shareholders meeting so you don't have to. And yet, I am going to play a couple of clips from the shareholders meeting, which includes Bob Iger, the chairman and CEO of the Walt Disney Company, talking about a couple of different things that are Star Wars related, none of which are related to a title. And incidentally, I do want to give a quick shout out to Bobby Gordon, who's a patron of the show, who reminded me that this was the day, or at least yesterday was the day, that the Disney shareholder meeting was going to take place. And apparently, this is getting, it's getting nutty because everybody is so excited for a title that they were even listening to this shareholders call, which, these quarterly ones, historically, there hasn't been anything really major revealed on quarterly ones. On annual ones, yes. Quarterly ones, not so much. And this was pretty much the case as well. So there were three major Star Wars related things that were talked about on this particular call, and one of them has to do with the Disney Plus streaming platform. First of all, they talked about their technology, BAMTech, that they bought from Major League Baseball, and I guess they have been testing it, for all intents and purposes, with ESPN Plus, and because they got a contract with UFC, they were able to sign up something like 500,000 new subscribers in a 24-hour span and be able to handle some crazy live stream stuff, and found out that the platform is very robust and is going to be perfectly fine for when they actually launch Disney Plus, which it will have to be if they're going to be launching it with Star Wars content and Marvel content on top of everything else. In fact, this is what Bob Iger had to say about the Disney Plus streaming platform, which will be coming in late 2019. And this is from the first part of the investor call. So the sound quality in this one isn't the best, but the other two clips we're going to play for you are much better by comparison. So bear with it on this one.
We'll demonstrate the Disney Plus platform and showcase some of the original content we're creating for it at our Investor Day on April 11th. We'll also take that opportunity to provide detailed insight into our overall DTC business.
All right, so right there is your next thing. It's April 11th, which incidentally is the same day as the start of Star Wars Celebration Chicago, although that's just the Bounty Hunter Collector's Day, so yeah, I guess we can pay attention to an Investor Day, but there's no information on the Investor Day or where it's going to happen, and so that's a TBD, more information to come situation. But based on that, turns out that people who go to the Investor Day are going to get to see footage of The Mandalorian, it seems, before anyone at Star Wars Celebration is going to get to see it, which is crazy. So there was another part of the call that had to do with Galaxy's Edge, and Bob Iger had this to say, which was rather tongue-in-cheek. And, most of these investor calls are pretty darn scripted. I have to say, this moment didn't sound particularly scripted.
And I would say, by the way, on the marketing expense side, don't expect much. I'm thinking that maybe I should just tweet, "It's opening," and that will be enough. I think we're going to end up with incredibly popular and in-demand product with these two new lands. They're large, they're beautiful, and they're extremely innovative, and they obviously leverage the popularity of the Star Wars brand. And I think that we're going to have absolutely no problem gaining attention for them or to them, and it's not going to take much marketing to do that. That's a signal that I just sent to our parks and resorts people to keep that budget really low.
And this is, of course, a big laugh, because last week we were talking about Black Spire, the novel, and Black Spire Outpost, the comic, and Black Spire, the children's comic, and Black Spire, the cookbook, and all this stuff. So I guess the line items are going to be on Disney's, or not on Disney's books, but on Lucasfilm's books. So yeah, and it's kind of funny and kind of sad to hear Bob Iger say, I'll just tweet this, and people will show up like, yeah, I guess you're right. It's going to be like that. It just makes you feel a little bit helpless in a way, but yeah, anyway. So yeah, Galaxy's Edge proceeding apace, and it sounds like it's very exciting. Of course, it wouldn't sound any other way on an investor call. And then this bit comes up, which has to do with video games. And Bob Iger talked about how they had tried different ways of going about video games. They'd tried self-publishing, they'd bought studios, they'd closed studios, they'd done this, that, and the other. And ultimately, the only thing that really worked for them is to go the licensing route. And so he has a thing or two to say about their licensing situation with video games.
And we've had good relationships with some of those we're licensing to, notably EA and the relationship on the Star Wars properties. And you're probably going to we're going to continue to stay on that side of the business.
And so that moment itself is kind of remarkable because of the fact that EA just shut down its game that they had been developing, and that had then resulted in the shutdown of Visceral Games and was kicked over to EA Vancouver. And then allegedly the game was shut down in favor of something that would be more mobile friendly and could be released more quickly, which I don't know if you have to, cut one to do the other. I mean, I don't know why you can't do both, but I mean, I'm not inside EA Vancouver, so maybe they know better. But, that whole game was supposed to be a big open world bounty hunter heist game, possibly underworld influenced. Like, that was supposed to be potentially a pretty exciting thing that was being developed. And the cancellation of it, that was a rather difficult thing to hear. We haven't really talked about it on the podcast, actually, but the fact that they were doing it was very unfortunate, and just sort of raised questions in, the electronic gaming industry about what is going on with EA and whether they're managing the Star Wars license well. Well, this certainly sounds like a vote of confidence from Bob Iger for EA, so take that for what you will. And all of that really has nothing to do with Jedi Fallen Order, apparently, which is still on track for its 2019 release. So, yeah, I guess, in thinking about Star Wars Battlefront and Battlefront 2 coming out, well, those were games that were released on the heels of saga movies, and so here we are again on the heels of a saga movie and looking at the release of a new EA title with Jedi Fallen Order, so it's great. So it seems like, all is well, but that's exactly how it would be painted in an investor's call. So, take it with a grain of salt if you want to. But, I mean, it sounds like they're on the right path so far, at least as far as what they want to be achieving and getting Disney Plus up and running and getting it up and running with a lot of great content and having their plan for how they want to reveal it. Now, something I didn't mention yesterday about, revealing stuff, I'll reveal to you here in just a second. I do want to say, though, that I hope you'll consider subscribing to the show if you're not already, and I hope you will also consider just dropping a little something in the tip jar for somebody who's willing to listen to Disney investor relations reports for you and give you the big heads up news on it. Just a little something over at patreon.com/SW7x7 for this and every other day of the show. I would greatly appreciate it. So the thing that I didn't mention last time was that it was 3 days with The Force Awakens from the announcement that principal photography was over to the announcement that we had a title and it was The Force Awakens. So if the principal photography for episode 9 is ending in February, and considering that J.J. Abrams is the one that's doing it, then it may be just a few days after principal photography ends that JJ gives the title. So yeah, you can keep on keeping on. The title's going to come eventually, and yeah, it's probably going to be sooner rather than later. So let's hang in there. And that is going to do it for today's episode of the show here. Thank you so much for joining me for it, as always. And may the Force be with you wherever in the world you may be.
This podcast is not endorsed or sponsored yet by Lucasfilm Limited, Disney, or 20th Century Fox. It is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Star Wars, the Star Wars logo, all names and pictures of Star Wars characters, vehicles, and any other related Star Wars items are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of Lucasfilm Limited or their respective trademark and copyright holders. May the Force be with them. All original content is copyright 2019 by Star Wars 7x7. We hope you love it.